Thank you, Srimati Vani. Thank you, Sri Vasudevan. I appreciate your commitment and your tenacity to pursue the commitment. So it is your dogged pursuance that has made us all come together. Again, it is divine will. So it is His wish. Let us surrender ourselves and forget ourselves and try to be one with Him, one with the power, the energy, the intelligence, the guiding consciousness that is responsible for whatever happens here. Our job is to make way for this flow of energy into what we are. We don't know what we are, and this is a tiny organism, and this tiny organism is made up of so many micro components. We don't know how many components are there. We are not aware of what we are. But our elders have been telling, our scriptures have been telling, our forefathers have been digging into our mind that there is some energy, there is some force, there is some intelligence that is governing everything. And these tiny organisms, they come and go. Tiny, what I mean by tiny, is in comparison with the vastness of this universe. And it is not possible for us to fathom the depth of what is existing. The universe or the cosmos is so big, so gigantic, so immense, and its magnitude is something that we cannot even imagine. In that, we are specks. Now, to realize the vastness of this universe and to appreciate our own triviality is one thing. And at the same time, how important it is that each of these components cooperate and coordinate is another thing. These are the two sides of the same coin. The cosmos is mammoth. It's big. It's vast. And every component therein is a component. It's an organic component in the sense that if you realize or recognize that this cosmos as a whole is throbbing with life. It is an organic entity. It lives. It is living. So this living organism, this cosmos as a whole, which is vibrating with life, has its components also vibrating with life. When I say life, when I say living, the inert material or matter and the living consciousness or a component that is making use of this consciousness, which is self-aware. Only difference is matter is not self-aware. And as matter evolves, awareness or consciousness is reflected into it, and the role or the proportion of consciousness is evident in certain components, and these are called living. So what our ancient scriptures say, which is endorsed by modern science, is that starting from the inert matter and ending with the supreme consciousness, it is a kind of a continuum. And somewhere you make a division in between and you say, whatever is not self-aware, we don't know. We don't know what is awareness. We don't know which is self-aware. We don't know. But still, we make, it is something like you make, parts in this globe and you say, this is Western hemisphere, and you say, this is Eastern hemisphere. And then you take, you have so many lines across. And if you take a globe and you have what is called latitude or what you call longitude, you have got so many markings. All these markings, you say, this is my land, you say that is his land, and this is one country and that is another country. And, when it comes to space, I speak in this term. When it comes to time, I say yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the previous decade, millennium, and past, present, and future. And similarly, we also speak of entities. This entity is different from that entity. That entity is different from this entity. It is something like, in our own self, we as a personality, we have parts. And we don't know how many living organisms are there in us and how many inert components are there. And still it is an enigma whether what we call something as inert is it really inert at all. The new discoveries in particle physics, and also, in our understanding of cells, the lives of cells, their behavior, their birth, their death, and their continuation in life, and their modifications. It is very amazing. We don't know actually what is being inert, we don't know, and what is being alive, we don't know. We are told that, if you weigh the colonies of bacteria that we have, it will be something like some 4 or 5 kgs in your weight, not less than 3. You have 3 to 5 kgs of living bacteria, and there is no doubt at all that these bacteria are living. And living colonies of bacteria contribute to your health, your life, your thinking, your day-to-day activities. Not only your activity as a person, but the activity of every one of your organs and every part of your organs. It's amazing. So we don't know. But yet, the component organic part and the whole, the cosmos as a whole, the universe as a whole, today, science tells us that there is no one universe. There are so many universes. It is multiverse. It is not uni. It is so gigantic. It is so big. So even the universe that we have in our mind, or the concept or our imagination, also happens to be a component. The cosmos is so vast. Nevertheless, however tiny or insignificant or small or trivial a part may be, the part is as important as the whole. This is what is called, in philosophy, we talk of transcendence and immanence. What you call the supreme reality, what you call the Brahman, what you call the energy, what you call the universal intelligence or consciousness, is both transcendent and immanent. What do you mean by immanent? It is there in every speck, and it directs. Ishvaraha sarva bhutanam hriddeshe, at the center. Arjuna tishtati. The supreme reality is there in every part, every component. And it is not only taking care of the existence, its workings, and transits, changes, its transformations. It is not only the whole looking after the maintenance of the whole, but each part is maintained. Each part is looked after. Hrideshe, sarvabhutanam. Bhuta means that which exists. Bhavati. Bhu, the root bhu in Sanskrit means that which is. Is and bhu are one and the same. Is. I am making use of English, but in Sanskrit also it is. As, asti, is and asti are one and the same. Bhavati and asti are one and the same. Same thing, being, when I say this being is asti, is bhavati, is root bhu. So whatever that is a being. Living being and non-living being, it is a kind of a distinction that we make, but we are not sure as to what is living and what is not living. Now, different branches of science, they have their own domains, but all these domains are for the sake of our specialized understanding, but they are all one and the same. It is knowledge. Knowledge can never be compartmentalized, but still we compartmentalize, we segregate, we have several disciplines. In a similar manner, this entire universe, the cosmos, the whole, that is what, the Upanishads tell us. The word used for is paripurna. Purna is the whole. Purnamadaha. Purnam idam. So adaha is something that is remote. Idam is something within our reach. Both are purnam. Purnam adaha. Purnam idam. And our conceptions of the part and the whole are in a comprehensive way of looking, in a comprehensive outlook, it is meaningless. So as I told earlier, in space, in time, and in being, it is not possible for us, though we imagine in mind, though we use it in our language, it is for convenience. But the universal spirit is ananta. It is purna. It is ananta. Ananta means it is seamless. It has no end. You can't compartmentalize. This is what is called, in Indian logic, avacheda. So the reality is anavachinna. Avachinna is that which is liable to be made into parts. So the sat, the sadvastu, the reality is anavachinna, chinmatra. It is Chidvastu. It is consciousness. It is of the nature of consciousness, and it has no parts. It can't be cut into parts. There are no components. Nonetheless, we make for our convenience, we imagine as if it has parts. So, Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyati. Each entity comes from that cosmic whole, Purnasya Purnam Adaya, Purnameva Avashishyate. It is nothing like, something is taken out and something is added. The whole remains the same. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. When I say matter, matter is matru, the whole, the source. It is not that, something is alive and something is not alive. We don't know what appears or what we imagine to be living may be inert, and what is inert or what we believe as being inert maybe, as they say, kicking and living. So now, when we speak of self-reliance, there are two words here. One is the self, and the other is reliance. You rely. Now, we speak of spirituality. We speak of spiritual progress. We speak of religion. We speak of morality. We speak of ethics. We speak of civility. We speak of being a good lady or a gentleman. And we have our concept of goodness. It is something good, something bad. Even animals, good horse, good dog. Similarly, anything, any component, any inert matter for that matter, any instrument, you say good, you say bad. So we categorize what is that good and what is this bad. When I say self-reliance, you have to rely on yourself, self-reliance, as a personality. You are a personality. Every human being is a personality, and every human being considers that he is a separate entity, at least a component of the whole. Now, this is basics. This is basic in the sense, as long as you do not participate, you cease to be a component. What is a component? Think for a while. Any part of an organism or even a machine for that matter. If you have a complicated machine, a machine that has several parts, each component of this whole machine, this machine as a whole, has to perform, has to participate, has to coordinate, has to contribute. The moment a part fails to coordinate, cooperate, and contribute for the smooth functioning of that machinery, that part will be out. You say the machinery has come to a standstill. You say it is broken. You say it is out of use. Similarly, immediately you call for a mechanic or an engineer, and he would find out which part has caused this problem, and that which has caused is out. Either it is repaired or a new component replaces the old and the useless. So the same logic holds good here also. Even in a body, the physical body, if some organ or some part is not performing, it will be transplanted. So this is what is called organ transplantation. Same thing as a component of the whole of the cosmos, you have got to do your duty. You have come here to do something. You are a component, and it is inevitable that you contribute, you behave. It is your duty to find out what is my duty, where do I stand, what is this whole, and where am I, and what is it that I have got to contribute. So the difference between a rational human being, a thinking human being, an evolved human being, we all agree that it is the human existence that is most rational, that is most evolved and self-aware. So what is this self-awareness? Self-awareness is not to be aware that I have got a body, not to be aware that I am somewhere so and so. It is more than that. Now, this is what is called progress. This is what is called spiritual progress. What is spiritual progress? Spiritual progress is to understand oneself, to grow, to understand and recognize and pinpoint one's real identity. Real identity is to pinpoint, to recognize, to understand, to be aware of one's place, one's duty, one's contribution, one's locus in the whole. It so happens that when any part is aware of its place, its locus, its role with the whole or in the whole, the part becomes the whole. I repeat, it all consists in your recognition. It is cognizing and recognizing. You must be aware. What is this awareness? It is not the awareness of the flimsy, partial, limited you, but it is the awareness of the whole, and it is the part played by this component in promoting or contributing to the wellness or the health of the whole. What is called holism is a kind of an awareness, and this awareness is fortified when the whole of your personality, when all the aspects of your existence contributes to the wellness of the whole or the functioning of the whole. So it is in this sense, when I say self-reliance, self-reliance has two words I told you. Self, the concept of self. At what level we are. When I say self, am I the body or am I the total of the different parts of the body of which I am made up of? Or is it my mind, or is it the vital years, or is it the metabolism, or is it the hormones, or is it the different systems, or it is a well oiled, healthy functioning of the whole? Is it only the matter? We call matter Prakriti. Prakriti is usually translated as nature with capital N, the world, the physical matter. And there is another component, there is another part of me. I make a kind of a division, the spirit and matter. I am made up of spirit and matter. Already I have told you that it is not possible for us to clearly divide these two, but still we make. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu, kham mano buddhirevacha, ahankara iti yamme, bhinna prakriti ashtadha. Ashtadha bhinna prakriti. Nature is divided into 8 parts. Bhumihi, the earth. It is very gross, solid. Apaha, that is also matter, but it is not as solid as Bhumihi. Analaha, the fire, energy, heat. That is also matter, but it becomes subtle. Vayuhu, wind. That is also matter, but how Bhumi is so hard and so solid a matter, and how when you consider water, it becomes, watery. And as you come to the tejas or the fire, and from fire, when you pass on to air, all are matters, but one is subtler than the other. And finally, we land up in Akasha. Akasha is space. What is space? Space is also matter. Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayu, Kham. Kham is Akasha. Oh, it is matter. We think, space is space. How can matter be there? Yes, it is matter. Science has proved it today that there can be no real vacuum. Something is there. And space is full of matter. If you try to understand what is this black hole and what is energy and what is matter, how much of matter we have, it is aghast. It is, amazing. So matter, the space is also matter. Next, come manaha, mind. Mind is also matter. Mind is matter. It is subtle, that's all. Like, the space is subtle. Subtler than space is mind. Mind is matter. Kam mano buddhi. Buddhi. Buddhi is your faculty of discrimination. Buddhi is required for the operation of manas. The mind, our ancient seers have very clearly said that mind on its own is worse than a monkey. It cannot help you. The mind must have the guidance of buddhi. Buddhi is the sarathi. If the sarathi is not there, the mind cannot do anything. The mind is an instrument. It is matter, and buddhi is also matter. Your discriminating faculty is also matter. You take. Buddhi is universal, just like, you are made up of the same panchabhutas, Prithivya, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. You also take a little bit of buddhi, take a little bit of manas and ahankara. You are divided. You say aham. You try to take away yourself, separate yourself, and you want to have your own identity. This identity, ahankara, it is a faculty. It is also what is provided by matter. Only thing is, it is subtlety. It is very subtle. Your ahankara is made up of matter. Your buddhi is made up of matter. But after this, you have what is called another prakriti. Me prakriti means it is my. It is, the eight, what is compartmentalized into 8 parts. This prakriti, me, is mine. Now, one more entity is there. Apareya, apara, iyam, itastu anyam, prakritim vidhi. What you call jiva, what you call, the living beings, Jiva is also the tiny consciousness that enlivens each of these beings. That is also me. It is mine. Krishna says it is the Supreme Spirit telling that the so-called matter, the so-called eightfold matter, is also mine, and this jiva, what enlivens it, the consciousness, is also mine. So just like you take a bit of bhumi, a bit of earth, that is Prithvi. Your sharira is parthiva sharira. You are made up of Prithvi because 80% is Prithvi, matter. Then you have a little bit of water, a little bit of wind, a little bit of fire, and a little bit of space. In a similar manner, you have to take a bit of mind, a bit of buddhi, a bit of ahankara, and a bit of consciousness. Mamaivamsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Jiva is nothing but my part. I give my energy, what I am made up of, one tiny speck you are. So self, when I said self-reliance, it is up to us to understand what I am. There are people who cannot think beyond their body. There are people who cannot think beyond their mind. There are people who cannot think beyond their vital energies. There are people who cannot think beyond their buddhi or ahankara. And again, there are people who cannot think beyond their individual jivahood. This is ahankara, and the sense of me, I, the sense of I is ahankara, and this is self. And as you have evolved, as much as you have evolved, as much as you are aware, as much of the self-identity you have, depending upon your awareness and your self-identity, you carry on. You carry on your life, your thoughts, your deeds, your contributions, your life, the way you think. Kayena, vacha, manasa, what you speak. It all depends upon your sense of I. It's very easy. Anybody can tell at what level you are. It depends on one word from you, one deed from you, and one thought that you have in your mind. You yourself know, and the rest also know. It's very easy. But everyone judges at their own level. Now, once we are aware of what matter is, once we are aware of what consciousness or energy or force or spirit is, once we are aware of the cosmos as a whole and its immensity. Once we are aware that this intelligence, universal intelligence, how it works within every component, and how it also manages to maintain the whole and the parts simultaneously for the functioning of the whole. The whole has its own direction. It is moving in its direction. Evolution is its innate intention. The whole universe is evolving, and every part is evolving. No part is allowed to go useless. It will be taken again, it will be polished, it will be repaired, it will be again used. There is nothing like, using and throwing, using and using. And once a person is aware of this, the more you are aware, the better you are evolved. And the more you are evolved, you get integrated with the whole, and the final aim of integration is to be one with the whole. And that's what all our scriptures are shouting, as they say, shouting on its roof. It is, again and again dinning into our minds that a part becomes the whole, and this becoming of the whole is not to be understood physically. There is no part, there is no whole, but you keep on evolving, and the more space that you allow in your mind for the universal spirit to enter into you, more divine you become. And this is how, from birth to birth, you keep on evolving. And this is the direction of the universe. It is evolving. The whole universe is evolving. And every part is being polished. Every part has to grow. It is growing. Universe is growing. It is growing from every point of view. Growth, whatever possibility or whatever that you can imagine, the different dimensions of growth, in all those dimensions, the universe is evolving, the universe is growing. And the growth of the universe is measured in terms of the individual growth, the growth of the components, the health of the components. That is what the Gita says, Uddharete Atmana Atmanam Natmanam Avasadayete Atmaiva Hyatmano Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Every part has its role. Every part has its responsibility. Every part has its destiny. And The earlier you recognize this and get polished better, equipped better, contribute better, act better, it is better that you will have what is called spiritual progress. Spiritual progress consists in as much as, or consists of, or consists in your willful, voluntary, proactive participation. Once again, I repeat, willful, voluntary participation. Now, your participation, your will, your willing participation is not on equal terms. The part can never be the whole. But you have to evolve. You have to be the whole. You have to become the whole. So you evolve, and as you keep on evolving, your participation, your contribution, this is what we call submission. The part submits itself to the well-being of the whole, to the mechanization of the whole, to the fulfillment of the well-being of the whole. So, as long as you function as a part, you submit to the whole, and when your submission is complete, you become the whole. Let's think over. We have to participate. This is very, very essential. To say spirituality and not to be active, to say spiritual progress, to talk of very high things and not to be participative, not to be active or contributing or participating, idleness or laziness is of no use here. To think of spirituality as idleness or relaxing, no relaxation is possible, because the universe is continuously evolving. The sun does not relax, the winds never relax, the whole universe is not relaxing. And how can you relax? So this is what is called Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. Each one has to struggle. Struggling is very important. Toiling is very important. Toiling is afflicting. Uddharet. Ut is up. Hara. Uddhara. Uddhara is to uplift. One must uplift oneself by one's own self. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam. Each one has to help himself. Natmanam avasadayete. Avasadana is to belittle or lower oneself. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. You are your friend. Everyone is a friend of himself, and he can turn out to be his enemy as well. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu. Atmaiva ripuratmanaha. You are your enemy if you don't progress. There's nobody else who is there who can poke into this poke. It is not possible. You are your enemy. This is self-reliance. Usually, we are experts in blaming others. But you get what you want. And you work for what you want. And your level of awareness, at your own level of awareness, you strive to get what you want, where you have identified yourself, what is your sense of identity. Depending upon your sense of I, you work, you talk, and you think. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yenatmaya atmana jitaha. You have to discipline yourself. You have to discipline yourself. If you are disciplined, you are your friend. If you are indisciplined, you are your enemy. Uplifting oneself is uplifting one's mind, uplifting one's buddhi, uplifting one's ahankara. It is expansion. This expansion is gradual, and this expansion is ananta. There is no limit. You are controlled by your sense organs as long as your identity is only at the level of your physical body or your sense organs. If you discipline, this requires a commitment. This requires a kind of a flair. What you like, that you become. Your liking depends upon your awareness. As you keep expanding your awareness, your tastes change. So if a disciplined mind is your friend, and if a disciplined mind is the only way for you to evolve, then you better discipline your mind. How to do that? If an undisciplined mind is my enemy, I have to take it out, or I have to mend it. So we uplift ourselves by uplifting our mind, our discrimination or discriminatory faculty called the buddhi, and expand our sense of I. Take the help of buddhi, take the help of manas. The manas controls the senses, the buddhi controls the mind, and buddhi is in turn the discriminating faculty gets uplifted or improves or expands as your awareness of your identity, the sense of I, as your ego expands. Expansion, I told you already, it is ananta. You have to keep on expanding. The cosmos is so vast. There's no end for it. There are people who think, they are very tiny and insignificant, but the moment you keep growing, you keep expanding, you realize how big you are, how strong you are. And if you give room for the energy to fill in, you will find out how energetic you are. And for this, you must discipline yourself. You should practice. Practice is very important. When I say self-reliance, this is self-awareness, it is self-toiling, it is practice, it is self-disciplining. It is a kind of, you must have that intention, you must have that commitment, you must have that taste. So it is self-involvement. Self-involvement as a whole, your mind, your senses, your body, your intellect, the thinking, the thoughts, everything has to be gradually and very carefully controlled and made use of and coordinated. So gradually you must practice to dwell on your higher self. That is what, the Subhashitas, they tell us once and again. Almost all poets have been telling us that any progress is only possible by diligence and hard working. It is lethargy that makes you rationalize, and it is cowardice. It is lethargy that makes you cowards. And there is no point in blaming our destiny. You make your destiny. This is self-reliance. And this is the paradox. Usually those who tend to blame destiny, they always depend on it and they rationalize. They don't make any efforts but keep blaming destiny. Once you recognize the divinity in you, you learn how to take support of this divinity within you, and the divinity helps you. And you gradually will be able to get rid of your weaknesses. Udyamena hi siddhyanti karyaha na manorathaihi. There is no point in just wishing. Hard work helps us to attain our goals. There is no point in mere dreaming or just intending. Mere intentions are of no use. I was amazed, when I was reading Viveka Chudamani the other day. One of the verses in Viveka Chudamani, Shankara tells, Jnate vastunyapi balavati vasana anadiresha. Usually we think, that once you have realized the self-realized is another Brahma. But Shankara himself tells, Jnate vastuni api. Even after you realize the supreme reality, Jnate vastuni api. Jnate vastuni means once, even after realizing the self, balavati vasana. is vasana, the promptings of what you have done earlier, your physical apparatus, it is very forceful. Balavati vasana anadiresha. At any moment, it can land you into a mess. Karta bhokta pyahamiti dridha yasya samsara hetuhu. You think you are the karta, you think you are the bhokta, and this sense of karta and bhokta, I am doing and I am enjoying, that is the main hetuhu, is the reason. That's the main reason. That is the very edifice of your sense of samsara, your sense of your limited identity. But pratyak drishtya atmani nivasata sa apaneya prayatna. Prayatna is the word used by Shankara. Prayatna is very, very, very important. Pratyak drishtya. Pratyak is dwelling within. You have to function only at that level. Atmani nivasata. You have to dwell in your inner self. Sa means vasana. Apaneya. You have to somehow not come under the influence of this vasana. You have to avoid it. Apaneya means, you have to avoid it. You have to remove it. Though it is not possible for you to remove because it is anadihi and ananta. Vasana is anadi. Anadi is ananta. It is not possible. It is there. It is there within you. Just as the supreme reality is within you, vasana is also within you, and you have to ward it off. Sa apaneya. Prayatnat. By constant effort. Prayatna is effort. So it is not that you can relax. At no moment you can relax. Prayatna. The prayatna is important. Even for the self-realized, you cannot just, categorize that somebody is Jivan Mukta and somebody is self-realized, and it is more difficult for the so-called self-realized or the evolved. The more you are evolved, the more careful you have got to be. Muktim prahuhu. Then what is this mukti? Tat iha munayaha. Great ancient seers tell muktim prahuhu. What is mukti? They tell vasana tanavam yat. Keeping the vasanas at bay is what is called mukti. The moment, in very great detail, there are so many verses in the Viveka Chudamani, the work of Shankara, which try to tell us that the moment you give, it is something like, though a tree or a plant is dried up, if some sprinklings of water, if a rain comes, then it sprouts. It becomes a huge tree full of leaves all around. It becomes rejuvenated. In a similar manner, a person who has dried up all his vasanas, the moment you give place or succumb to the vasana, you are gone. So, it is not that spirituality is something that is to be attained or practiced by people who are lazy or who are relaxed or who are not relying on their self-effort. Effort is very important. You have got to rely on yourself, depending upon your sense of self. So, continuously keep on expanding your sense of identity or ego and practice morality, because it is morality that helps you to climb higher realms of knowledge or reality. Ethics is instrumental in spiritual evolution. Actually, spiritual evolution consists in freeing oneself from baser passions, our attachments to the body, mind, and senses delude us. Self is divine. We are essentially the spirit. By identifying ourselves with our mind and the physical apparatus, we get limited. We become small. We become trivial. We try to acquire more and more worldly objects. Contentment from the objects of the world is impossible, and we have to grow by the practice of spiritual disciplines. We transcend our limitedness. As we get more and more convinced of our divinity, we improve our tastes. We get a better taste of divine happiness. Self-realization or God-realization is our highest goal in spirituality, and the ego has to keep on expanding. We have our sense of identity. We must get freed from being deluded by our unevolved or unripe ego, and this is done by disciplining. Constant discipline or constant spiritual practice. Spiritual practices, that is what, Shankara said, prayatna is very important. So spiritual practice means by self-effort and by self-assertion, by commitment, you stop succumbing to the senses, and without submitting to the compulsions of the body and the mind, with determination, you evolve spiritually. And self-reliance, in the sense of self-effort, is indispensable for spiritual evolution. Ultimately, the Gita says, spiritual journey is a journey from matter to the spirit. It is a journey from the tamas to sattva. The 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in detail discusses the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. These are the three constituents of prakriti or nature. As I have already told you in the beginning, nature is at one end and the spirit is at the other end. And whatever is other than the spirit, we call it matter. This is a kind of a dichotomy we make. And I repeat, our mind, our sense organs, our body are all made up of Prakriti, nature. They are the products of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. As I told you, Prakriti is very subtle. From the gross Bhumi to the subtlest Ahankara, it is matter. And this matter is again made up of three gunas. Guna is a technical term here. It is not to be confused with what generally we talk of guna in the sense of an attribute. Guna actually means a strand. Just like a rope is made up of three strands or many strands. Here, this Prakriti or material nature is made up of these three gunas, the strands of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Each individual has these gunas. They inhere in different proportions in every individual. And one guna predominates over the other two. All of you know, I need not repeat, what Tamas stands for, what Rajas stands for, and what Sattva stands for. When I say Prakriti is made up of these three, you require all these. Tamas stands for inertness, it is dullness. Rajas stands for activity, it is all, passions, desire, restlessness, attachment to action, and and their consequences. Whereas Sattva signifies, clarity of vision, calmness in the midst of activity. A spiritual seeker must gradually get rid of tamas and allow calmness, allow clarity of vision, light, that is sattva. One should engage in fruitful activities, while rajas makes us aimless workaholics. It is sattva which makes us prone to aim for spiritual evolution. Restraint is most important. Avoiding, rajas and tamas, the passions, desires, attachments. We have to work very carefully with vigilance. This is what is called karma yoga. And contributing, as I told you, participating, and without thinking of the component part, contributing to the whole, performing your work as the worship of the divinity is bhakti yoga. And this kind of selfless action for the whole, submitting, gradually promotes the sattva. Our acts of devotion like japa, prayer, worship, meditation, etc. help in the manifestation of more and more of sattva. And you should gradually we learn to submit to the Supreme Spirit that dwells within us. We can take help from the divinity in us, and gradually it is possible that we can allow ourselves to be taken over by the divinity. So, self-effort, self-reliance, self-awareness, self-commitment, proactive participation, submission, a kind of a willingness. And it is not just thought, it is not just willingness, it is not just the wish, but actually training yourself. You have to train yourself, take care or cognizance of each and every part of your personality, and you harmonize the whole. This harmony is what is called yoga, yuji. The root yuji means to get connected, to integrate. You integrate every part. Every part is important. There's no point in, in getting rid of something. No, you cannot. It's whole. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam. So no dichotomies. Integrate the whole. Change yourself. Change is very important. Change your tastes. By self-effort, don't give room for passions to take you over. Don't succumb. This is what, the Viveka Chudamani tells. This is what the Bhagavad Gita tells. This is what the Upanishads tell. This is what our elders have been telling repeatedly. So, uddharet atmanatmanam, atmanam avasadayet, atmaiva hyatmano bandhu, atmaiva ripuratmanaha. It is self-determination, it is self-effort, it is self-reliance. You must have a commitment, a determination, a willingness to grow. If this is lacking, no spiritual progress is possible. That's what I meant when I said self-reliance is important in Adhyatma. Maybe sometime later, in another opportunity, I'll tell you what exactly is Adhyatma. The very term Adhyatma means that you have got to be self-reliant. Adhi and Atma are the two parts. Atma is self. Adhi is in connection with. It is pertaining to. It is about. It is about yourself. So when you say something about yourself, what you are doing is most important. Self-effort is most important. And for this, you cannot blame anybody else. Atmana Atmanam. Purnat Purnam Udachyate. Gradually, you have to grow. And this growth has to be comprehensive. Thank you. I stop here.